that day one.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
I'm taking him at his word. What am I supposed to do?
Even if you're not religious, this might be a good time to take out your Bibles because it's clear that the Antichrist has entered Canadian politics. What a fiery episode we have for you today. Kevin O'Leary and the host from Power in Politics over on CBC definitely went at it a little bit after O'Leary had to correct him on a number of things that he said as fact. And honestly, at this point, it's like these people, they know what they're saying. I genuinely think that they just hope that their viewers are stupid and will take what they say as fact without actually doing any homework. That's where I come in. I have done a lot of homework on this. On that note, the demon known as Mark Carney did something a little weird for a nobody and outsider to do. And wow, he's probably going to regret putting his name in the public eye after we start revealing some of the truth about this man. And two other Liberal MPs, and one who actually isn't a Liberal MP, but a notable figure nonetheless, have declared that they will not be running for leadership. Let's just actually get through that first and foremost. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, share, follow, all of that stuff. Oh my gosh. And please comment your thoughts down below because this is really juicy.
Former BC Premier Christy Clark will not be running. She thanks Canadians for their support, but says she has made the difficult decision to step back, in part to give her and them time to improve her French.
Man, that must not look good for that other guy who we talked about who said that it doesn't matter if he speaks French or not. And to be fair, there actually isn't anything within our laws that says to be prime minister, you have to be bilingual, despite the fact that we are a bilingual country.
How's your French?
Nope.
No French?
No French.
Okay, the Liberal Party of Canada is the party of official bilingualism. It's going to be a tough one. I don't speak French either, so you know.
The point is that whether the Quebecers or English Canadians, it's not the language that matters, it's what is that they deliver to them.
So Christy Clark has announced that, she's a no-go, and I don't know, is that actually due to not being able to speak French, or is that possibly due to her latest blunder?
But you voted in the race, did you not?
No, I didn't, and I never got a membership. And I never got a ballot. What I did, though,
I will say, Christy Clark, we reached out to the Conservative Party, who told us, in fact, that your membership was canceled.
Oh, well, why don't they come out and show my membership or my ballot? They never sent me any of those, although I wouldn't put it past them to manufacture one of them.
And after that interview, the Conservative Party sent a screenshot that appears to show that Clark was a member of the Conservative Party from June 2022 until June 2023. Clark took to social media last night with this mea culpa saying, well, I misspoke. Expletive happens, lesson learned.
On top of that, Francois-Philippe Champagne has also announced that he will not be running.
And I come to the conclusion that I will not be seeking to be the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada for the upcoming race.
Now, here's the thing. All of these people who keep dropping like flies from the Liberal leadership race, that could signal to you, oh, well, they know that they're going to lose anyway. They probably don't want that. It's a lot of work, whatever. And they keep giving reasons like, oh, it's because of my French. Oh, it's because, I want to keep fighting for Canadians. I have these other important portfolios. And for that, I'll give credit where credit's due. Thank you. Because yes, it is very important right now that we have anything remotely close to a stable government. But my conspiracy brain is thinking the reason why so many people keep dropping like flies could actually be to make sure that it is a landslide victory for Mark Carney.
Climate change is an existential threat. We all recognize that. There's increasing urgency around that. But the converse of that, the flip side of that is if you're taking steps, making investments, coming up with new technologies, changing the way you do business, all in service of reducing and eliminating that threat, you're creating value.
And that would then mean that even if the Liberal Party does not win the next federal election, which as it stands, they're predicted to be very far from that, Mark Carney would then become the Prime Minister of Canada, if even for a short period of time. And to kind of lend to my thought process with this, and it's also, just something to keep in the back of your mind, there have been insiders speaking that allegedly Justin Trudeau's current chief of staff, her name is Katie Telford, she has been making calls on behalf of Mark Carney to continue garnering support for him as leader. And that just kind of makes me worry here that this might actually be a lot more nefarious and evil than what most people would be able to see upon first hearing all of this news. Hello. It's Future Jasmine. I'm in the process of editing this video right now, and I just noticed that even though this wasn't applied earlier today, YouTube / The Daily Show / let's be real, probably Mark Carney, since he is a global elitist, has managed to copyright protect that entire interview, of which I filmed the majority of this video discussing. So please bear with me with such tight restrictions on the video, actually, that even if I were to post the original content, YouTube would block you from seeing it. At least that is what they told me. But I have been in here for hours already today, so I'm just gonna post what I reacted to in the commentary of it without the video clips to kind of support where I was going off of. But the main portion that I was reacting to and giving commentary on was Mark Carney's comments about becoming the new Liberal leader, and also his emphasis on being an outsider, which we will get into here. So again, apologies that I don't have the clips to support it, but I don't know, bear with me. The host opens up by saying, "I remember you from 2008. 17 years ago. I remember how 17 years ago you helped Canada steer clear of the economic collapse that we faced much harder here in America." Why would you have a guest on for that? In polling that's been done about potential Liberal leaderships, most people say they have no idea who Carney is and they don't care. Why did he get this interview and who arranged this? Because that alone seems really, really weird that some dude, some billionaire elitist, part of the WEF that nobody's familiar with, would suddenly be on a talk show in the United States, a very left-wing talk show. Plus, Mark Carney is globalist elitist to the T. So it's really rich to hear Mark Carney, a person who most people don't know exists, who has never once been out with Canadian people ever, discuss how Pierre Poilievre is a certain type of politician. Oh yeah, he's a career politician. So are you, dude. What? That's an insult? An insult to be very well versed in politics. That's kind of what we need in this country, actually. And Mark Carney, what are your base level standard jobs that make you superior to him? You've never worked in Canadian politics, directly at least. And your career has enabled you to work alongside all sorts of the wealthiest, most elite people in the world. You don't know anything about what it's like to be a Canadian citizen. You don't know what it's like to struggle at all. You literally were governor of the Bank of Canada, then the Bank of England. You worked for Goldman Sachs. Wow, that is truly disturbing. That is scary. That is scary to see the way that they are painting him. And it's scary to see how easily and happily he will lie about his true involvement, because he can say, oh, I'm an outsider. I'm not a part of the government. You know what, actually, let's go through all of the outsider things that Mark Carney has been involved in. I mean, number one, he was Trudeau's advisor. He's also the godfather to Chrystia Freeland's child.
I speak with Mark often. About that? I speak with him often. He's actually my son's godfather.
Oh, and let's also throw up these leaked text conversations where a Liberal Party member cited having discussions with Mark Carney about the government's response to the Freedom Convoy. It's pretty weird for an outsider to be the godfather of our former finance minister's child and to have a direct line of communication within our own government. It's also weird for an outsider to have our current prime minister's chief of staff making calls on his behalf in order to get Liberal Party support. Most outsiders certainly don't have those kind of insider opportunities and connections. Mark Carney, senior policy advisor, was also tapped last summer to chair Trudeau's task force on economic growth. Also a really good pal of Gerald Butts, of whose details we will be getting into in just a little bit. It's also quite peculiar that as an outsider, he is very well connected and sits on the boards and chairs and the round tables at, the World Economic Forum, the Group of 30, the Bilderberg Group. It's weird for an outsider who in July of 2024 was a guest of the king in his box at Wimbledon. Also, on the same royal family note, Carney attended a private Buckingham Palace dinner hosted by Prince Andrew. And, if that didn't already set off some red flags, Carney's also been seen hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. And while those photos are taken from a wilderness festival in England, by the way, Mark Carney has been on tape where he has described himself as being European. He says that he identifies as European, not Canadian. So do what you will with that information. But those photos were taken back in 2013. And of course, Mark Carney's team is scrambling because they're like, oh crap, can't believe this is out. And Mark Carney has since blamed the Conservatives, saying that it was them who leaked the pictures, when it wasn't. Actually, it wasn't the Conservatives who did. It was a private account that leaked the pictures, and says that he's not friends with Maxwell and that she was just a friend of his sister-in-law's, who is Lady Tania Rotherwick. The festival took place in Rotherwick's massive estate, by the way, and it was a self-described weekend of escapism, hijinks, and wholesome hedonism. Maxwell regularly stayed at this estate, and she often stayed in the guest house of Mark Carney's sister-in-laws. But, okay, sure. Yeah, they only hung out a few times. They're not close at all. He also hasn't even worked in Canada for over a decade now, and he's the United Nations Special Envoy for Climate Action and leads Brookfield Asset Management's environmental, social, and governance efforts, co-chair of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, and as it stands, he has been to more WEF conferences as a speaker than any Canadian members of parliament in history.
I am an outsider.
I also can't wait for Jagmeet Singh to somehow go from blaming Pierre Poilievre as being like some billionaire elitist to somehow spinning that now on the Liberal Party, of whom he has supported, Mark Carney included, right? Obviously.
Do you think he wants tariffs for tariffs' sake, or is this a threat to seek concessions in other areas?
What's so important about understanding how Donald Trump works is to realize that there are two elements to his narrative. Number one, there's the noise, and then there's the signal. And you have to learn how to distinguish the noise from the signal.
As we know, Premier Danielle Smith was at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. Apparently Jordan Peterson was there. Kevin O'Leary as well was the one who invited her. And it's been really interesting to hear the way that a lot of liberal NDP pundits have been describing her meeting as though her meeting with Donald Trump was a bad thing or it was really selfish. When in reality, I think a lot of people are thinking like, thank goodness somebody is fighting for our most profitable export, the thing that provides so many of us with jobs.
When you focus on the signal, that is where the opportunity is. And I think where Canadians are getting lost in this narrative because we're in a unique situation, we're leaderless. And so we have all of these barbs being thrown back and forth across the border. That's all noise. The opportunity is in the signal, and the signal is where we should be focused, because Danielle Smith nailed it when she said, in the tonality of her narrative with Trump was very constructive, because she, you think about the opportunity all of these leaders have had in the last 2 months. And what people don't realize is this is an opportunity to go off the record with Trump and form a personal relationship with his cabinet. She didn't squander that opportunity. Many others did. So now she's the only politician in Canada that has not only a personal relationship with Trump, but with many of the cabinet that she's going to have to deal with in NAFTA 3.
But Mr. O'Leary, help me then with the noise. What is the signal here? Because, you've seen Lighthizer, his former trade ambassador, who said that they believe tariffs as a way of generating money and bringing manufacturing inside the U.S. borders is a viable policy in and of itself, but you well know how disruptive these tariffs would be to the North American economy should they be imposed. So is he really just trying to get concessions on the border, or is it something bigger? I mean, how do you view it? You talked to him certainly a lot more than I have.
It's a negotiating tactic. All of this is.
To what end, though? To what end? Like, what does he want?
To what end? To create the signals and economic union that's the most powerful on earth. There is no question. nobody's going to trade sovereignty. No one's going to sell Canada. No one wants to be sold. Nobody wants to give up their sovereignty, neither do Americans. But the opportunity, for example, to create a common currency, which makes a lot of sense, I guarantee you now, 11 out of 10 Canadians would rather trade their Trudeau pesos for US dollars tonight.
I mean, he's not wrong. That's also hilarious. I was having a conversation with a client of mine who is from Dallas, Texas, and he's like, do you want to be paid in like Canadian or American? And I was like, please, Lord, American. Please. It's worth so much more than my crappy little Canadian dollar, which really is such a darn shame, because I do agree with pretty well everything that O'Leary is saying here. And I absolutely agree that it really seems like he and Danielle Smith are the only ones really fighting the case for like the betterment of Canada, because we've been so torn down by absolutely insane policies and regulations and bureaucracy that just takes and wastes so much time.
But you're saying that's what, a proxy for this idea of an EU-style arrangement between Canada and the United States? I know you have advocated for this idea, but do you know straight from the president-elect's mouth?
No, I have not advocated for a 51st state.
No, the economic union. The economic union. Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, you do have a quote where you say make the border disappear, but you mean regulatory-wise, not in a sovereignty way. Is that what I'm understanding your point here? That
I'd rather Canadian dollars be spent on protecting the North and American dollars, because I'm worried about the Chinese more than anybody in Canada, it seems. Right. They don't, listen, I think that's a huge threat, the Russians as well. And I think that's what we'd get to do when we create an economic union. We want to protect it, the sovereignty of our energy, the sovereignty of our beliefs. We both believe in democracy and freedom of speech. We want to protect that. We want to protect it with financial might. That's what Trump is getting at, and that's a very good idea. And I think we have to separate that noise into this signal, because Canadians are being poked by their own politicians, forced into this by a leadership race at a provincial level in some cases, at a federal and others. And I asked Trump personally, and I don't know if this fell on deaf ears, to say, look, why not give Canada a break so they can elect a leader like you were elected with a 4-year majority mandate? Let them do the same thing and then negotiate with that team.
But this
would be a lot more productive.
This idea of the economic union, as you've described it, have you heard that directly from the president-elect himself, or is this your interpretation? Is this the signal you are pulling from all that noise? Or has he laid it out to you that this is really what he's talking about here?
No, I'm pulling it from all. I'm pulling from all that signal. I know he wants that pipeline. How do you get that? You need Danielle Smith. You need Alberta. You need to build that in cooperation with Canada. That gives total independence and security to the U.S. economy, and it brings in another $300 to $400 billion into Canada. Who doesn't want to do that? The only guy I know that doesn't want that is Gerald Butts, and I think we've had enough of him.
Well, I mean, like, Jerry Butts has been out of government for a long time, so I mean, he's.
Oh, wait a second. Wait, that's not true.
Well, it is. He works with the Embraer now.
Let me correct you. When there was a majority mandate by Trudeau, and he had it in the first mandate, Butts put all the policy in place.
Sure.
Danielle Smith had to litigate that policy in October 2023 to get me to bring back $70 billion into Canada. Okay. Gerald Butts is the Antichrist of Canada.
Oh, okay. Well, look, Mr. Butts is a private citizen now. He's not in public life. He does not control the government. He hasn't been since. So anyway, but I want to move on.
Wait a second. Isn't he backing the Liberal leadership right now? Didn't I hear Carney is going to bring him in behind him?
Well,
that's an unholy union.
Okay.
I'm really starting to think that all of these liberal ministers who were teasing that they might run, they were top contenders, and they've just been dropping like flies from the leadership. I'm really starting to believe that the reason why that's happening isn't because, they want to focus on their French. It's not because they want to focus on their portfolios. I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if the truth of the matter was that all of these liberals, the top contenders that actually would have a lot of support from the Liberal Party and from Canadian citizens who are Liberal supporters, the few that remain, that they're dropping to make way for Mark Carney, who will then win by a landslide and become prime minister, even if just for a short period of time. And who knows the damage that could be done for that short period of time. It just feels very evil to me. And I'm really curious Let me know your thoughts on that speculation in the comments down below, because it seems obvious to me at this point, but I'd love to know your take. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give me a follow, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It means the absolute world, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.